Welcome to the Dynasty Stock Market with DFK and bigz. I am bigz. Alex is DFK. We have two very, very special guests. I emphasize special with one of them. We got John Laub in the building, and then our special friend Chev over there, borrowing him from some other shows that we do, and our player profiler now news Friday live thing, which we still have yet to debut, but look for that this Friday. We are here to talk pre-combine rookies, and that's going to be fun. I have been A, out of state, B, out of commission, C, out of my brain for the last 3 weeks. So I'm in no position to host or lead or anything like that. So DFK is going to take over everything and guide us through. I'm still not over my cough that I got in Louisiana. I don't know. It was a rough.
We're glad to have you back, man. We're glad to have you back. Big's been all over. But he's been giving us some inside scoops at the Senior Bowl, was at the Super Bowl, and we've been running with it, man. Chev's been cutting up some clips. Shout out to Chev, you the man. And, like, we're just, player profiling news teams is all over it. So
grinding.
It's pretty awesome, man. Everybody's out there cooking. We got John join us today, Jamie in the chat, so we're ready to roll.
Jamie Pirog's here.
Yeah, man.
Hello, Jamie.
We got a combine coming up next week, and we've been diving in deep. John Laub, he's been cooking. I saw Matthew Golden post with you and Matt Hicks earlier today, breaking that guy down. I'm a Texas guy, as you can see back there. So, yeah, man, love the content you're putting out and appreciate you jumping on. You can find John at Gridiron Skull 91. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right. Well, let's not waste too much time, man. I want to talk about some of these guys at the combine, and we're really looking at, for fantasy, not too many quarterbacks. So I kind of want to just kind of gloss over that real quick. Like, let's take a look at the quarterback position here. We've got on the left side, Jackson Dart was a name where Big saw him up close and personal at the Senior Bowl. Quinn Ewers, Dylan Gabriel, Will Howard, current champion. Riley Leonard went right up toe-to-toe against him. A lot of other good names here, Jalen Milroe. So I'm wondering, guys, who's got the most to gain from a good performance at the NFL Combine next weekend, 10 days from now on February 27th?
That's a great question. Go ahead, John.
Oh, I personally think it's Jackson Dart because there's some ambiguity about who is the third quarterback in the class. I think most people have it, Shador and Ward. You can put them in different orders. I personally have Jackson Dart second. He's my second-rated quarterback, but that is not the norm out there. I understand that he has some faults, and I've seen it on film. But there is a really high ceiling if this young man lands in the right spot and he has the coaching that allows him to use his skills and the talents. I say we all liked how Bo Nix developed in Denver, but he landed in a really good spot with Sean Payton. I think that's not talked about enough. Yes, I give Bo Nix credit. He did it. But you know what? Payton put him in a good position to succeed. And my model loves Jackson Dart.
Mm-hmm.
The model is silly. I don't think people understand how good he is with his legs. 1,541 career yards rushing. Now, he's not a Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson scrambler. I am not saying that. But can he get 400 to 500 yards a year with his legs? Can he score 4 to 5 touchdowns? Without question. And that is fantasy gold. I mean, that if you get that, it's gold. So I think Dart has the most to elevate himself to. And I think the interviews are going to be really important with Dart. Remember Gruden used to do the chalkboard?
Oh, yeah.
And who's the 49ers coach and Lions former coach who does it on NFL Network?
Mariucci.
I love those. If Dart goes in there and he can learn the language and understand the concepts quickly, and he passes the mental acumen, and I'm talking football. If he passes the football mental acumen, I think he ends up number 2 in the draft class.
So I'm gonna go ahead and piggyback. I'm gonna throw this out there just because Chev knows exactly what I'm saying. Jackson Dart is my favorite quarterback in this class. If I was an NFL GM and I was looking for a quarterback, I would draft Jackson Dart before I drafted Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. There aren't a lot of people who agree with me. Analytical model is one thing that sets that apart. And you brought up the model. Now, it's not my own model. It's a model from our friend at Undroppables, FF Coder, and it has Jackson Dart ranked as the highest scoring quarterback in his model for this year, for 2025. In 2024, he would have been quarterback 3. Trevor Lawrence is the all-time winner of this model. And I'm not really a film guy. I'm more of an analytics guy. But I have been diving into film this year. And one of the things that I did was I went back and I watched Jackson Dart in 2022 and Jackson Dart in 2024. And the progression is very similar to what I saw from Bo Nix and Michael Penix's progression from 2021 to 2023. There were things that he was doing with his arm strength, his body control when he was throwing the football, his footwork, his ball placement, progression in the moving the pocket, moving safeties around. There were things that I absolutely loved watching his film, on top of the fact that he already hits analytics. Now, the other thing that you brought up is his mental acumen in his interviews. I got front row at the Senior Bowl during his podium time, got to ask him a good question about Trey Harris. Those two guys very much hope to land together, including with Jackson Powers Johnson, who was the center in high school for Jackson Dart. Reunite those two Jacksons in Las Vegas at the number 6. I have been saying for a couple weeks that I have zero problem with the Raiders taking Dart at number 6. But during the interview, he was asked a question about the progression of offenses that he was in from USC, or not was it USC, and then going into Lane Kiffin's offense at Mississippi. The answers that he was giving were absolutely dead on, accurate. The man knows his defensive reads. He knows how to operate within different offenses because he's done it throughout his career in college. It was very, very impressive. So as far as not hurting himself with his answers, he's going to do that. He's not going to hurt himself at all. He's going to come out, and NFL GMs are going to be at least whelmed by his answers. Now, the original question was, who stands to help themselves the most? And I'm going to go in a different direction and say Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and Jackson Dart are already pretty much placed where they're going to line up in the draft. With that said, there have been some mocks showing Dart already going number 6 to the Raiders.
Okay.
The people who are going to help themselves the most are going to be the mid-range guys. Your Will Howard, your Kyle McCord, your Dylan Gabriel. Those are the guys that need to go in there and show NFL coaches through the drills what they're going to be able to do physically and with the wide receivers during the drills and everything. Dylan Gabriel has a huge hill to climb because of his height. He doesn't project as NFL quarterback height. McCord has some flaws. Will Howard has some flaws. Shuck out of Louisville has some flaws. Those are the guys who are going to work themselves into the first round if they can, or into the top of the second round if they can. We pretty much know what's going to happen other than that. So those are the guys that I'm going to be watching just to kind of figure out where they're going to fall. Jalen Milroe, another one. If he can throw at the highest velocity at the combine like he did, it was off the charts at like 74 miles an hour or something like that at the Senior Bowl, which was like, that's a hot gun. But if he can approach what Joe Milton did last year, what JJ McCarthy did last year, that's going to go a long way for Jalen Milroe. So it's really those middle guys that are trying to work up from the third or the second round into the first, into the back half of the first. Those are the guys that I'm going to be watching really closely.
Yeah, I need to see how these guys do on the mental side. Like you said, with like Dylan Gabriel, this is a guy who's won more games than anybody, but the size is going to be a limiting factor. So if you want somebody to emerge or at least have a shot late, like a Brock Purdy type, then yeah, I could see it being Dylan Gabriel as a big riser. If he can really show some good measurables and test well, like on the interview side, I think that's the guy for me. That's a big riser. But Chev, for the quarterback spot, who's got the most to gain for you?
I think the answer for me is really easy. It's Will Howard. I mean, he played extremely well in the college football playoff. He transfers from Kansas State after more or less carrying that Kansas State program. He showed off what he could do with his legs at Kansas State. I said on Twitter at one point he was a bus driver driving an F1 race car at Ohio State because of the fact that he has all these weapons. And here's the thing. Nobody else could get them over the top at the quarterback position until Will Howard came along. So there's value to that. And for me, I think he's going to go into the combine. He's going to be the most physically impressive quarterback of the bunch there. He's 6'4", 6'5". He's 235 pounds. He's put on tape against your boys at Texas. He had an 80-yard touchdown run. Against Penn State, you had him closing out the game with a quarterback sweep, the old student body left to close out the game against Penn State. So for me, he's got the arm. You've seen him just put the ball in places where guys like Emeka Egbuka and Carnell Tate, and I mean Jeremiah Smith's an alien, so we won't say that he put the ball in amazing places there. But you've seen him put the ball in spaces where guys can just turn and run, and that seems like that's just any quarterback can do that. But I watched him do it consistently as I scouted him, and I think that he has the most to gain in the class. And I think that when scouts leave Indianapolis, that's the guy that everybody's going to be talking about. Him and Tyler Shuh, another guy who just suffered injuries at Texas Tech, broken collarbone 2 years in a row, broken fibula, and then he transfers to Louisville, gets with the Braun brothers, and I mean he puts it all together for a tremendous season. Now he's a little bit older, like Bo Nix. However, he's put it on tape, and who cares about how old they are anymore? If you can play, you can play. Guys, like the NFL's desperate for guys that can come in. And one thing that I've started to pay attention to is how many collegiate snaps and how many starts you have. And so those guys, to me, have put the work in, understand, just like with Jackson Dart, understand what it takes to galvanize a locker room, even if it's not the scale of the NFL. You've been the leader for quite a bit of time. So those are the two guys for me. Tyler Shuh, I hope I'm saying that right.
Shuck. Shuck.
Tyler Shuck and Will Howard. I think those are the two guys that I will be most excited to see raise their stock and profile at the combine.
Right.
I just want to say one quick thing about what Chev mentioned. People thought I've been crazy over the last 5 years because I have in my model games played. Mm-hmm. And I never had a share of Trey Lance. I never had a share of Anthony Richardson. And I've had tons of Bo Nix, tons of Jalen Hurts. And it is awesome to see people come on board the train, everyone. Yeah. Games played matter.
I was going to know.
Played. It's not the end all and be all. I understand. But if you don't think working through film, leading men, getting hit, overcome adversity, mental acumen, and experience all matters. And that I agree with you, Will Howard at 50 career starts. And I'll just say this and end it. My model likes Dylan Gabriel, 64 career starts. He's going to get a shot down the road in the NFL.
That was my pick. I'm feeling even better now. So let's roll on to these tight ends.
Well, a quick note on Dylan Gabriel. Okay. At the Senior Bowl during the practice sessions, he seemed to throw the best ball.
He's got a great arm. His arm is, he finds lanes like Drew Brees.
Yeah.
He does. There is Drew Brees in his game.
Nice.
Yep. So he was the most impressive with the arm to me, and it's just that 5'10". I mean, he's
I
like
know
he's
They have
looking
a
at Bryce
they have a
Young
radar gun out
profile.
there. Did they have a radar gun out there?
They did. That was what was hot. That showed Milrow at like 74 miles an hour,
Okay.
which would just it was
That's silly.
dubious at best.
Okay,
We'll
okay.
look
So,
for the
I
combine.
need to
number.
check the zebra analytics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I thought there was a chip. There was a chip in the ball, and that's how they were measuring it. There
Ah.
wasn't like an actual radar gun, right?
Right.
Yeah, Chip.
Yeah. So it's different than the way that they measured it, like, back in the day when they had Dak Prescott throwing against David Carr, and
Yeah.
one threw a 49, and David Carr just threw a laser beam at 60 something miles an hour. Yeah, it's a little different than that. So just for the record, write that
right.
down, Jamie.
So tight ends. I mean, I like that question. Who's got the most to gain? I mean, we saw people actually have a massive gain in the Senior Bowl, and about a month later, they're gonna have another opportunity to keep that momentum going. I'm gonna start this time, and I think it's gonna be Harold Fannin Jr. I know he already has the best stats of everyone at
Silly.
the tight end position. Super athletic. The stats are crazy, but smaller school, right? So we want to see how he can do on a level playing field with a lot of his other tight end friends. So I want to see if he can go out there and still be super athletic, test really well, have a really high 40, because he's a little bit lighter frame. So, I was listening to an interview that we posted with Sean Payton talking to Kay Adams about, looking for a Joker type player. And, we think of Tyler Warren when we're thinking of this, but at the same time, this is more of a H-back type player, Harold Fannin Jr. The size isn't really there. I think, maybe 6'3", 230 range pounds wise. So this is a guy where he's going to be undersized to get a role. If he wants to be like a Chigo Okonkwo, at that size type of player, then he's going to have to show out here so he can get some draft capital. So that's my guy, Harold Fannin Jr.
So throughout this broadcast, I'm going to be referring back to my notes. And when I say my notes, there was an article that was published last year by Sumer Sports, and it's an analysis of the correlation between different combine metrics and how that relates to production in the NFL. And when we look at the tight end position, the top 4 are 40 time, broad jump, vertical, and 3-cone. Shuttle's a little bit behind, and then finally age. Those are the only positively correlated metrics according to Sumer Sports. The bottom 3, which are negatively correlated to tight end production in the NFL, are weight, height, and bench press. So basically what we're looking at is the mold that was broken from the inline tight end into the big slot, and who's the best big slot tight end in this draft? It's Harold Fannin Jr. Tyler Warren he's very athletic. He's going to be able to show NFL teams that he can play in line. And then you have Oronde Gadsden Jr., who's another guy who might be a little bit smaller. And as long as those athletic metrics hit, these are the guys that are going to be productive in this class. And so look for the athleticism, not necessarily the height and weight, the inline blocking ability, things like that. Brock Bowers continued the mold break that was started the couple years before. George Kittle is kind of in that athletic range, but he's also a good blocker. So that's not important. Everybody talks about how good a blocker George Kittle is, but that doesn't translate to fantasy points. So it used to be a path to earlier production if you were able to be in line and also be athletic. But at this point with the NFL, they're going big slot. They're not really worried about guys being able to block, especially when they're in 4 wide situations. You see teams going away from 21 personnel unless that second tight end is going to be somebody who's playing off the ball. And so we have a couple of very good candidates in this class. So watch the athleticism of Harold Fannin and Tyler Warren and Oronde Gadsden Jr. The other guy is Elijah Arroyo. He is the one that absolutely blew everybody's mind at the Senior Bowl. Again, he's a guy that was used in line to block a lot. He wasn't thrown to a whole lot, so he doesn't have a whole lot of production behind him at Miami. but look for his athletic metrics. Those are going to tell the story what the NFL is going to do with Elijah Arroyo, and he could find himself rising just as much at the combine as he did at the Senior Bowl.
All right. So John, how about you? Who do you got?
I'm going to give you a name that I haven't heard enough about. And if you are obsessed with models, you are not going to be interested in this player. But it's Colston Loveland of Michigan. And you've got to put this young man in context. Michigan was one of the worst passing offenses that I have seen in my 40 years of watching college football. How a blue blood program could literally trot out that trio of quarterbacks. I think they threw for 1,500 total yards. I mean, we're talking Rick Leach, 1978 at Michigan, threw for more yards than this trio. So you can't look at production in Colston Loveland and say he's good, but you don't just use production. His receiving yards per team pass attempt is 1.89. That's pretty good for a tight end, everyone. His team aerial dominator, Michigan, was so bad. I can't even name a wide receiver on the Wolverines. And as you can see, I'm a Wolverines fan who's watched them for 40 years. That's how bad their wide receivers were. He had a 35% team dominator. So in a total crap offense with one player who could hurt you in the passing game, Colston Loveland still had production. bigz mentioned. Is it bigz? Did I get that right? Is that how I pronounce it?
Just bigz.
Bigz. So I agree. If he goes out in those numbers that you just identified athletically, and if you look back at his high school profile, and that's no guaranteed 4 years later, 3 years later, he was a very good athlete in high school. If he goes to the combine and he does what you just mentioned, and then you look at him, I like him a ton. I have a first-round grade right now on him. And I think his ceiling, we haven't even seen what he could possibly do as a receiver.
Right.
Yeah, is there a chance that he rises above Tyler Warren? It's just he had no production, like you're saying. So it's like if he just tests flat out better than him somehow, is there any chance of that? Because last year I think Loveland was ahead of Warren at this point.
Yeah, he was ahead of him at this point. I'll say this, though. Penn State tight ends, they're going to go and he's going to be a freaky athlete. I mean, remember Mike Gesicki, Pat Fryer, Theo Johnson last year? Whatever they do in that Penn State athletic department with the way they get their young men ready for the combine. So I can't imagine Tyler Warren not being uber athletic. I guess there is a chance if somehow Colston Loveland was better. I just don't picture it being that way. But I think he's going to go in the first round in the back end. I think there's playoff teams who are going to really like Loveland, and they can take the luxury of a tight end there. I think he's going to go in the 32 picks.
Yeah, John, the fantasy gamers, they're not fully sleeping on Colston Loveland, but I think he has a chance to actually rise in our rookie rankings, just where I see him go in
overall,
a lot of Chev's mocks. I feel like he's going like really back into the second, maybe middle of the second, but it's because we're playing in a lot of tight end premium ones, but there's going to be a lot where I think he's going to slept on until he balls out in the combine.
Yes, I agree. I completely. What if he ended up in Kansas City? Like, I mean, they're just look. Don't you think they're looking for another tight end? And they have the luxury pick at the number 31. They could take one of these young men.
All right, Chev, who do you got? Tight end, biggest to gain, most to gain.
Well, we haven't spoken about Gunnar Helm at all. He came out of nowhere pretty much this year in college football, and he supplanted Ahmad Niblack. Niblack, how do you say it, Biggs?
Amari Niblack.
Amari Niblack. He supplanted him as one of the go-to options behind Matthew Golden at the University of Texas. So I think his athletic profile is going to be extremely important because he did put the production, even though it's not the end-all, be-all. I mean, Quinn Ewers is I mean, that's erratic at best, right? So we're not talking about him just getting premium targets, right? So I think that absolutely he's got the chance to really raise his profile. The last two guys I would say would be Luke Lachey out of Iowa. I think that, he's an NFL legacy guy. His dad played in the NFL, was an offensive lineman. I think that he has a chance to raise his profile. You helmet scout, you talked about Penn State tight ends. Let's talk about Iowa tight ends. If we're helmet scouting and talking about what they put in the NFL. So Luke Lachey, he had some really impressive reps at the Shrine Bowl a few weeks ago. And then last but not least, Mason Taylor. Now, this is the NFL legacy kid of all legacy kids. And at one point or another, early in his career, they were touting him in Devy circles as the tight end one of this class. Now, that didn't quite pan out for reasons, he's just not – he doesn't have the athletic ceiling of a guy like Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland, which, by the way, excellent call. But I think that he has a chance to really raise his profile with, great measurables this week. At the Senior Bowl, he put on tape that he was dominating in the red zone and in one-on-ones. Bigz highlighted him a couple of times as a guy had a really strong day. And that wasn't just Bigz. That was across the Twitterverse. Hopefully I'll be able to be there next year in person to see. But yeah, if I had to go, I'd go Gunnar Helm and then the two legacy guys, Luke Lachey and excuse me. And Mason Taylor. Sorry.
One number that I love with Gunnar Helm, and I like his film, he had a 78% catch rate. And as you mentioned with Quinn Ewers throwing the football, that's a really impressive number. Him and Elijah Arroyo had the highest catch rate in this class. So I do like Gunnar Helm a lot. I think he's a second-round pick.
Yeah. I mean, it was really impressive. It's not, I won't say it's Jason Witten-esque in how he just finds ways to get open, but he finds a way to get between the defender and the ball and maintain possession of the ball. So I that's an undervalued trait in my opinion. So he's more of a traditional guy. He's not going to be an athletic freak, but I think if he puts positive measurables like sub 4.7, 32, 33-inch vertical, and he's still around 250, 255 pounds, I think we're really going to see teams really get excited about Gunnar Helm.
I love it, fellas. All right, we made it through the tight end position, quarterbacks, and I'm gonna hope we can get through the rest of these, but let's jump into these receivers, okay? All right, so looks like we got Bigz back as well, but we're gonna jump into these wide receivers. We've got a lot of guys I think could be stock up because the way I see it right now, we're asking ourselves who's maybe wide receiver 4 through 10. How does that order shake out? For me, I'm a big Emeka Egbuka number 2 guy. I like the size of Ted.
That's spicy.
So I'm taking Ted at 1. Luther Burden, I like the athleticism. I think that they're working with the backup quarterback. He's had good years, so I'm thinking he's my 3. But after that, I mean, I've been loving some of the tips I've been getting from Bigz, from the Senior Bowl, and everyone over there. Some guys I really need to pay attention to. But let's take a look at this one more time. Is there anyone here you guys think is a big riser? And let me start with Chev on this one. I know there's some guys here that you've been a fan of. It's a big list, but anyone here you want to point out that has the biggest ability to just take a big jump after the Senior Bowl? I mean, excuse me.
Yeah. There's two of my favorite guys. One of them. We share one in Trey Harris. Yeah. We absolutely share one in Trey Harris. I mean, 5 yards per route run versus man in 2024. That broke the record for the model of at least 200 routes run for wide receivers. I love Trey Harris, full stop. He gets me bricked up in the cement aisle. I absolutely love Trey Harris. And the second guy would be Jaden Higgins. Now, before the Senior Bowl, I was writing on Player Profiler about how I think Jaden Higgins is one of the steals of the draft because he's being regarded as just this contested catch guy. All he could do is just, I'm big and I'll box you out and I'll win. But I watched him win with nuanced route running, with releases, and using his hands at the appropriate time to get off of defenders and not giving up his chest, which is an important thing that you see with taller receivers. You get jammed And now all of a sudden you're the primary on the play and we got to go somewhere else because he can't get off press. So he defeated press coverage. And then he went to the Senior Bowl and absolutely eviscerated people in one-on-ones, in team drills. There's the clip that went, semi-viral of him just roasting that dude, the corner at the line of scrimmage and running a fade, like running a go ball. So I think that if he runs sub 4.5, this is the guy who climbs in the early day too. I think if he does that and posts like a 35, 36 inch vertical, he could sneak into round 1. But it might be pie in the sky talk. He just does it all for me. I get really, really excited about him. I think I have him at my wide receiver 6. I have to go back and check my rankings, but I think I've got him as the wide receiver 6 or 7 in this class. So yeah, Trey Harris and Jaden Higgins are my 2 guys.
Love it. All right, John, give us yours.
All right, so I like Trey Harris and Jaden Higgins also, and I'm coming out. I'll be a great team player here. I'm Player Profiler. Early next week is my top 6 wide receiver breakdown, scouting reports, and I right now have in my model 41 wide receivers, and that will be also available for all the Player Profiler readers. You just go to the article and you hit the link. Now, I'm going to go a little deeper here. I like Kyle Williams out of Washington State. I had watched a lot of Washington State this year. At one time, I think they were 6-1, maybe 7-1, and they were playing really good football. They kind of had that Mountain West, the Pac-12 disappeared, and they had a Mountain West schedule, but they weren't an official member of the Mountain West, and they played late on the West Coast, so you might not have seen Washington State play. And then I put Kyle Williams into my model. Oh my. I went back and watched 3 more games of tape because I liked him in my notes and I liked him in my first pass. But my model started having bright, shiny lights say, open up your mind, open up your mind. So just let me give you some of the things that I really like in my model for wide receivers. Team aerial dominator, Kyle Williams, 33%. That's a very healthy, meaty number. Receiving yards per team pass attempt, my baseline is 2.5. This is a pretty sticky stat. Kyle Williams had 3.01. That is one of the top 5 in this draft class. His catch percentage, 71%. And my friends, context. The advantage of loving college football. Context matters when you look at catch percentage. I was really impressed with Gunnar Helm when you think about having Quinn Ewers throw the football. My friends, John Mateer, while he's a dynamic athlete with his legs, he is no pinpoint passer for the Washington Cougars. So when you have a 71% catch rate for Kyle Williams, oh my God, that's really impressive. Yards per reception, 14.6, 5'10", 182 pounds. I have a 3rd round grade on him. I like him a ton. I have a feeling that there's going to be an organization that really likes him also. I expect him to go on day 2, if not early day 3.
Fantastic. And I've got up your is this the article you were talking about? Yeah. So
that's the
Ricky
running
Deep
back
Dive.
one. And then the wide receivers are coming out early next week.
All right, guys, go check that out. The Ricky Deep Dive by John Laub. And guys, before we give bigz breakdown, let's get a word on some other things that can help you guys out this season.
Hey, what if I told you there was a Dynasty app where you could get player lifetime values, evaluate trades, including draft picks out to 2028, compare the advanced metrics of 2 players, look up the sentiment, buy, sell, hold on players? Well, there is a mobile app that has all of that and more called the Dynasty Dominator, and it's $5 in the App Store on Google Play. This is my gift to you, the most affordable Dynasty League domination app available today. And if you already have it, the 2025 class is ready to download. Let's go!
Let's go.
Let's
Get it.
Go.
Get it
Let's
now,
go.
baby.
Let's go. Sweet.
You're gonna
Get
want
it
to
now.
You're
Do it.
gonna want to use promo code BOOTH BOOTH.
Use it. Get it. All right.
I'm
Biggs,
remiss
how you feeling?
because I had a complete like system shutdown, and so I had to step out for a second, and
No,
I
you're good,
didn't
man.
get
We
a
kept it rolling.
chance to shout out John for his shout out of San Francisco Giants pitching legend Rick Leach.
Oh yeah, baby.
I mean, he only pitched for the Giants for a year, but I am here for any Giants reference. All right, so there's one guy that I'm going to throw out for you guys, and Chev knows this. I have a weak spot for Arkansas Razorbacks wide receivers. I'm talking about Isaac
Don't do it.
Tesla.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it, Biggs. I like. We both love him so much. Please don't do it to him. Just do the other guy that I know you want to do.
No, I'm talking about Isaac Tesla.
All right,
Okay.
that right column there.
So Isaac Tesla was a JUCO transfer. He did wind up playing 2 years at Arkansas. He was one of the guys that nobody really knew at the Senior Bowl that he did some things, and he did some things during the game, which is, I mean, that's the least of it, but he did perform when he was on the field. So just a couple of things. Arkansas hasn't really had the greatest of quarterback luck the last couple of years. Taylor Green, KJ Jefferson, they've been the guys with the ball. But Isaac Tesla, who's 6'4", 217, he's a big body guy, runs in the 4.5, 4.5 range. So we'll see how that shakes out at the combine. But it's really his hands that are phenomenal. And you're looking at a guy who has a 112 quarterback rating when targeted. Now, that's obviously not the best in class, but when you start talking about models and you start talking about your production for quarterbacks, you want to be at least 110 or above. The best in the class is going to be in the 120 to 130 QBR. I think Trey Harris is the leader this year, but Isaac Tesla is up there, and nobody's seen him coming. So this is a guy that when you go into your rookie draft, he's going to be somebody who can maybe mirror a Mike Williams type production, speed down the field, contested catches on the boundaries, maybe come out of nowhere and put together a 60 or 70 catch season with some good red zone and end zone targeting. He could be an absolute steal in your 4th and 5th rounds. So watch for his athleticism at the combine because he's big. We know that big doesn't actually equal production in the NFL. You can be a smaller guy at wide receiver and still perform. The other guy that is going to make or break his NFL draft is Jack Besh from TCU. Everybody wants to see this guy because of the Senior Bowl story. He's from Lafayette, Louisiana. The New Orleans Saints have taken the Senior Bowl game MVP in the draft the last 2 years in a row. So if they grab a Jack Besh, that'll make it 3 years in a row. And he's a local guy to Louisiana. It would be a great landing spot for him. And he's going to be the story of the combine the way that he was the story of the Senior Bowl. So if he can perform athletically, he's going to rise up a lot of draft boards, like shoot up a lot of draft boards, because everybody loves a good story.
I want to say something about Tesla because
All
my
right.
model really kind of awoke me to him, and I had to go back because, like you said, he was a transfer in. So if you look at just raw numbers, you might not see him. And it's not like they had the most prolific passing game. Taylor Green is a nice athletic quarterback, but again, his ball placement isn't excellent. You mentioned his hands. With let's just say a below average thrower, he had a 74% catch rate. I mean, that's really impressive. And I do like when these two data points are in sync. Yards per reception and ADOT according to PFF. 14.5 yards per reception and an ADOT of 14.3. So he's running deeper routes down the field. They're connecting with them. And anyone who's watched Taylor Green, he's not throwing like tight spirals right into your hands, right? So you have some really nice numbers here with Tesla, and if he shows us the NFL athleticism, I agree with you, but I've got to see more at the combine.
It's going to be more of his lateral movement. Again, checking my notes, wide receiver combine information and production correlation. We're looking at a good vertical, strengthen the bench, but it's really the shuttle, broad jump, and 3-cone that are more important than your 40 and your size. So look for him with his vertical, his shuttle, and his vertical is going to probably be pretty good. He's a jumper, and then the broad jump and 3-cone also. I can't wait to see him. I'm going to call it right now. I'm planting a flag that first 3 seasons, Isaac Tesla is going to outproduce Treylon Burks.
Well, I don't know if that's hard or not. I don't think the numbers are good for Burks, but I got to look again.
That's a hot take, Big. So appreciate it, man. All right, so I'm gonna keep us rolling. I'm gonna keep a little homer pick. I'm gonna go Isaiah Bond. He'll be my biggest riser. It's a guy who got his job taken. Got his job taken from Matthew Golden. Like I said, the guy you broke down today, and it's just like the athleticism still has to be there. That's why he transferred into Texas. So I think if he can just show that at the combine, he could be right back in the mix for second round draft pick for a team that needs a speedster. So let's keep rolling into the running backs here. So a really strong running back class potentially here, and I think there's a lot of guys that have the ability to just take a starting role potentially. We got some other players that'll be ahead of them, but eventually I see a lot of the guys on this list have an ability to pop off. And I'm John, on your list here, on your article, first name Marion Hampton, Ashton Genty, but he's not going to be a big, huge riser. I think Hampton's a guy that we already think is in potential for RB2. My guy, I think it could be the biggest riser is Caleb Johnson. I know a lot of folks love the tape, but if you can just match up the tape with some good measurables, which right now we're all expecting it to not be a super fast athlete right now, but if he can, whether it's a shuttle drill, 3-cone, whatever that is, if he can just do some of these drills exceptionally, I think that can just solidify him as a second round pick. I don't see him going to the third round with what I've seen on tape. I think this is a guy that's a minimum second round pick.
Without question.
Yeah, if he doesn't bomb this combine, then look, maybe it's cheating, maybe it's not a huge to gain, but I think he might have a lot to lose if it doesn't look too good on tape. So let me see a big combine from Caleb Johnson. So let me go to you, Chev. Who do you think could be a big riser next week or 10 days from now at the combine?
I would like to point out that size adjusted speed score is going to be huge for Caleb Johnson. I think that if we can get a good 10-yard split, which for me, for running backs is way more important, that's going to be huge for him. I think there's a couple guys that I really have in mind here. Ollie Gordon, bigz. We've spoken about him quite a bit since the Senior Bowl. He comes in at 233. That's another guy whose size adjusted speed score is going to be really important for, especially coming off a disappointing 2024 campaign after winning the Doak Walker in 2023. And then a guy that I don't know what to do with per se, because he was excellent catching the ball this year, and I thought he was going to be a little bit heavier, but he's not. It's LaQuint Allen, the top guy, the top guy on the list.
I love him. I was going to talk about him. I love him.
Yeah, man. I stumbled upon some highlights, and then I got into the numbers, and I was like, I got to go watch this. So after I watched it, I was just like, oh, why are we not? But it's because of the fact that this running back class is incredibly deep.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were how many 41 running backs invited to the combine this year?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah. So this running back class is ridiculous. Like, this is a guy who's probably a top 5 guy in 2024 draft, unquestionably. And this guy, he's probably going to be a day 3 pick at this point. So I'm interested to see what he does. I think he's going to blow the agility drills out of the water. A good 40 and a 10-yard split for me would be the icing on the cake for a guy who caught 65 balls his last year in college. So, and then of course I have a brand, and that brand is Brashard Smith.
Yeah.
We know. We all know. Biggs knows. I like if I could change my son's name to Brashard Smith Jr., I absolutely would. I love Brashard Smith. So I think that was okay. Going into the combine, I've said that he was the guy who I think could be this year's Bucky Irving. If he tests the way that his film looks, there's zero chance that is going to happen because he's going to get much better draft capital. So yeah, those are my guys. LaQuint Allen, Ollie Gordon, Brashard Smith, because that is my adopted son.
So Player Profiler has Brashard Smith currently at RB23. This is inaccurate. Someone's got to do some work here, guys. I'm sorry, but
is that
behind Donovan Edwards? I don't think so.
Wait, is that among rookie running backs?
This is all rookie running backs. So this is early. This is early, guys.
This is a slap in my face.
Updated before the Senior Bowl, so we'll get on it, guys. Don't worry, we got plenty of time. But yeah, gotta move some of these guys up here. So all right, Biggs, let me get you here. How you feeling about the running back spot? Who you looking forward to seeing, and who's got an opportunity to really help their draft stock come April?
So the two big names for me are Trevor Etienne and Dylan Sampson. Now, Dylan Sampson is going to be the youngest running back in this class, and we know that age correlates to NFL production at running back better than any other metric. Size is another one, and that's the other thing that Dylan Sampson doesn't have. So he's the youngest guy in the class, but he's also one of the smallest. Yeah. But he is going to be the fastest. I almost guarantee that Dylan Sampson is going to run the fastest 40 time at the NFL Combine. This is putting him into a small Devon Achane, Jahmyr Gibbs, I said it right that time, level of speed at the size that he is. So the way that the NFL is evolving, the fact that this class is so huge, at least 20 deep of guys who could start on an NFL field as early as September of this year, age kind of like working itself out in the age of COVID with guys staying longer, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, that kind of thing. Dylan Sampson he's still coming out as an early declare running back. That's important. Speed is going to be another one. We are going to see a lot more of two-back sets or two-back kind of strategy. We are looking at the dawn of the age of the no bell cow. Right? We have Derrick Henry. He's on his way out. Saquon Barkley, great year. We are losing the guys who are going to be the singular running back bell cow in an offense, and we're going to see a whole lot more. It's a copycat league, so we're going to see a whole lot more situations where you have Jalen Wright and Devon Achane, you've got David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, you have all of these combined backfields, and Dylan Sampson is going to be one of the at the forefront of that. The other thing is that Trevor Etienne has the bloodlines. Obviously, his brother Travis out of Jacksonville, super fantastic running back out of Clemson, came out. We thought he was going to have a pretty stellar career, and he got hurt immediately. Trevor, a little bit of a different path. He was a portal guy going to Georgia. I hate to see guys transfer. I want to see them with their team for 3 years and then go to the NFL. But he did make the transition from Florida to Georgia. I can't believe the Gators fans were too happy about that. But he's also another guy who's very, very young, but he has an incredible ability in the pass game. I watched him do reps at the Senior Bowl. He was making body control, twisting catches in the air, great hands, and he has a route tree. He had a route tree at Georgia, similar to what we saw from James Cook and Zamir White. Trevor Etienne played that James Cook role, and he's going to make an impact in the NFL. So we want to see, we got to combine that age, and we want to see that speed there, and then a lot of the agility scores. Etienne is a little bit bigger than Dylan Sampson. That's going to help him a lot, but those are the two guys that I'm going to be focused on for the Combine.
All right, and John, so we got a question. When's the running back rookie deep dive part 2 coming out?
I'm doing wide receivers part 1 now. then tight ends, and then I go back to the part 2 on the running back. So probably about 3 weeks, maybe 4. Depends on, how just my own work too outside, but soon.
Of course, yeah.
But soon. And I love all the guys that you've mentioned. If you go to the player profiler now, if you go to my article that Alex showed before, there's a link to my running back model with the rankings. So LaQuint Allen, I have him at number 10 right now. Dylan Sampson, I have at number 12. Rashard Smith at 13 and Trevor Etienne at 14. So
Yeah.
I like these guys. Just shows you how deep this class is crazy. If you move up, if you go up to the top of the article, it will have the link on there. It's right above the Ashton Genty profile.
Sweet.
There's a button that says Scholars Running Back
Right
Model.
Found it. There's the rankings, and then boom. So is it the rankings one here?
Yep.
All
you
right.
hit that, and you can go see what I got. I'm going to give you 2 more players, and I like to go deep. And we've mentioned it already today. Wait, does that not pop up?
Oh, it here. Let me get it on a different browser. I got you.
Okay, sorry. So I just want to make sure I had done everything right. I like to go deep, and I've never seen in my 12 years of writing profiles and analyzing, I've never seen this many great running backs. I like Brayshell Tootin of Virginia Tech.
Yep.
If you don't know much about the young man, he played at the FCS level. Then 2 years ago, he moved up to Virginia Tech, and he was one of the best undervalued college fantasy football running backs in the nation last summer. Now, he's 211 pounds, 5'11". His numbers in context, he only played 2 years at the higher level in the ACC. He had 50 receptions in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I like this. Yards after contact per attempt. He has a 4.40. The benchmark is 3.25. And I could not believe this. He had 34 runs this year, over 10 plus yards. He's more explosive than you think. His BMI is 29.4. I wish it was in the 30, but I call it the margin of error. I'm not going to worry about 0.6, right? Maybe he shows up 2 pounds heavier, 1 inch shorter. So he's in that range for BMI. The tape is impressive, folks. Virginia Tech, their offense, he basically was the offense for the Hokies the last 2 years. I think he's going to go in the 4th round. I really like Tootin a lot. It just shows you how deep. Hey, maybe he's a 5th. I have a 4th round grade. He might go in the 5th round just because of the depth of this class. Now, a player I haven't heard enough about, but I always defer to the SEC. In 40 years of watching football, I could argue the SEC has the most running backs historically who transitioned to the NFL. Maybe the Big Ten, but I do think the SEC in general has been better. And I should do stats someday. I should do that. That's what maybe I'll do this summer. I should go over the last 40 years, see how many Big Ten and SEC running backs made it in the NFL. Anyways, no one's talking about Jarquez Hunter. And it's just because of the depth of, look at Chev. I got him awake. Man, Jarquez Hunter. I couldn't believe this when I put it in the numbers. 5'9", 212. Holy crap. His BMI is 31.3. That is hallelujah. And then his yards per carry is 6.3. I'm like, oh my God. Then you watch 68 career receptions, and he's a good receiver. I have what I call the Najee Harris benchmark. He's not Najee Harris, but he's not just a dump-off guy. He's a good receiver. You can employ him down the field. And yards after contact, 4.08 And my favorite stat by him, 42 runs this year of over 10 yards. I think he led the SEC in rushing, if I'm correct, right? Does anyone know? I think he led the SEC in rushing. I can't believe no one's talking about him, but it's simply because it is so deep this year's draft class. I can't wait to see his 3-cone time and his 20-yard shuttle. If those are off the hook for his size and his BMI, oh baby, I'm all in. He looks athletic on tape. I do question his vision. I don't think he has great vision. I think he can adjust, but there's so many other things that I like about this young man, and no one's talking about him.
There is one channel that is talking about him, that has been talking about him, and that's Player Profiler.
Oh, okay.
Because I posted my interview of him at the Senior Bowl.
Hey,
he was a good
shout
kid.
out to bigz.
bigz. I mean,
I-
the model is impressive, and like he's a good player when you watch the tape.
Yeah.
Hey.
I did want to address a couple things. Number one, you brought up Bashal Tutin, and going to the Senior Bowl, he was number one on my running backs to watch list because his size and everything is very intriguing. He did come in at just under 5'9", but he still has that 211 pounds. So that's totally fine. Like you said, the 29.4 BMI, it could go to 30 if he eats enough. I made the statement about Dylan Sampson running the fastest running back time at the combine, or the fastest running back 40 at the combine. Jamie asked, faster than Arian Smith? No, but Arian Smith is a wide receiver. And then he also said, what about Tutin? Isn't he faster than Sampson? There is a possibility that he could clock faster than Sampson. The thing is that Tutin was injured. So he was, and this was one of my concerns in day one of the practice sessions. And I know Jamie knows this. I was kind of taken aback by Tutin's effort level. It didn't look like he was, there are guys who look violent when they get their rep. They're pushing their feet into the ground. You're seeing maximal effort, and that was not the case with Tutin. And I was like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. So day two, I saw a little bit of an improvement, but I was talking to a guy who had been talking to Tutin's agent, and Tutin was running at the Senior Bowl at about 80%. Now, 80% at the end of January, beginning of February versus the end of February, I don't know if it's going to be enough ramp-up time for Tutin to run the 40. I would not be surprised at all if he does not run the 40. That tends to be kind of the highlight time to put out there for running backs. And I don't think that if he's not, I think that if he's not 100%, he doesn't want to put on tape. Maybe he'll wait till a Virginia Tech Pro Day, something like that. Now,
it sounds like a pro day is up his avenue from the way you're discussing it.
Now, I did have a question for you, John. I was disappointed because this is another guy who's dealing with an injury. He's not going to be at the combine. He was invited to the Senior Bowl and to the East-West Shrine Bowl. He did not participate in either because of an FCS injury in the playoffs. Where do you stand on Lan Larison?
I've got to see athletic ability. I mean, I've heard good things about him, but it's hard to translate in my model. I mean, I can do it with G5 guys because I know the level of competition when you transfer competing, guy from the Sun Belt isn't the same as playing in the SEC competition, right?
That's
so
fair.
When you mention a player like him, I'm going to really rely on the athletic comps. I like the film, but he might not have, he might not have played against an NFL linebacker, right? So, it's very hard until I get athletic numbers. He's one of the guys who I call on my watch list. Right. If he goes out there and shows me the athleticism, then I'm more willing to consider him. But I can't compare it because I need apples to apples.
Bigz. I don't see him on this list. So somehow you ended up sneaking Lan Larison onto another show. So that means we got to wrap it up, guys. I really appreciate you coming on, John. Let the people know where they can find you.
Hey, All of my written stuff is at Player Profiler. I'm a full-time teacher, so I come about and I want to do the best work I can. So, it takes me a while to come out with each piece. Right now, quarterbacks and the running backs are up there, but you can hit the link to my model to see how I rank the top players. Wide receivers are coming out next week, followed by the tight ends. And, of course, there's a bunch more after that. And then you had mentioned it, Alex. Thanks a lot for the shout-out. Rookie Big Board on YouTube. And right now we have 6 players that we've highlighted. We got 2 more coming out. We do 4 every week until we reach 32 or 36 prospects. But those are all free on YouTube.
Awesome, man. And thank you, Jamie, and everybody who was in the chat. This was definitely a fun episode. We'll have to have you on, John, maybe sometime after the combine, maybe in April, right before the draft or something like that. But you can find bigz on X at BigBonedFFB. I'm at Dynasty FK, and we'll see you guys next time. Hey, stock up for everybody watching this show, and I'm excited next week to see what happens at the combine. So we'll be back, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.